Welcome to the award-winning Champions Mojo, hosted by two world record-holding athletes. Be inspired as you listen to Conversations with Champions. And now, your hosts, Kelly Pallas and Maria Parker.
Hello, friends. Welcome to the Champions Mojo podcast. And as usual, I am co-hosting with Maria Parker. Hey, Maria.
Hey, Kelly. It's great to be here with you. I've missed you.
Yes, you know what? I said as usual, but we've had kind of a break this past summer. And so we're cranking back up for the fall, like everybody going back to school or back to the fall. And so we are so excited for our guest today. We're kicking off this fall season with Ellen Reynolds, who is arguably one of the all-time best master swimmers in the world in the last several decades. But just alone, we can't go back 30 years and say everything that Ellen's done or else we'd be here all day. But just in 2024, just this year alone, Ellen has set 20 national and or world records. And she is coming off freshly last week, the U.S. Masters Long Course National Swimming Championships in Mission Viejo, California, where she went 5 for 5 golds and 4 for 5 world records. So we're super excited to talk with her. But not only is Ellen amazing in the pool, she's just coming off a career that is truly amazing on itself. Maria, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Ellen's an accomplished pediatric surgeon for 25 years. In fact, I think September 1st is going to be her last day. She's retiring very soon. And she's consulted for the American Board of Surgery. She served as the governor of the American Pediatric Surgical Association and the surgeon director of the National Board of Certification and Recertification for Nurse Anesthetists. In 2023, she published an article in the Journal of Pediatric Surgery titled Pediatric Surgery from the Roads Less Traveled, Challenges, Communication, and Collaboration from a Community Non-Teaching Hospital. She's also invented a device, an elevation hook, that's placed underneath the sternum and raises it before placing in stabilizing bars for patients who have what's called sunken chest or pectus excavatum. That's really cool. She's obviously had an amazing career outside the pool, so let's meet her.
Welcome, Ellen. Welcome to Champions Mojo.
Welcome, Ellen.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Before we move off of pectus excavatum, we have to say that is the condition Cody Miller has, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, that's just so cool that we've had Cody on the show and that have been out there helping people of that with that condition. So, Ellen, I am familiar with you very much because we're in the same age group. But for our listeners that are not, it looks like you started master swimming in your 40s, which could be considered a little late for how successful you've become. So tell us your swimming history, and you can take it all the way back to swim lessons if you want.
Well, that's the fun part. So I grew up in California, and my parents put me in swim lessons at age 3. And true to my stubborn nature, I refused to get in the water. And then when I finally did, I apparently just started swimming freestyle. And I won my first ribbon when I was 4. And I swam, summer league and all the way through high school. I played water polo in high school too. And then when I went to college, I couldn't quite figure out how to swim and be sociable and study. So I didn't swim collegiate. I didn't really swim much past that, other than if there was a pool or some time to just go swimming for fun, I would. So by the time I got to be 40, after spending my 20s and 30s focusing on my career and my family, I was not in very good shape. And I really think it has taken me these 10 to 20 years to get to where I am now. So that's kind of in a brief nutshell, but it has just taken consistency over the last 20 years of work to get the strength that I have now.
We love to hear about the specifics of training. Like before we started recording, I told you this morning, I did a set of 8 50s on 4 minutes, which is, it's not a typical workout somebody might do, but it definitely creates the speed, which you need for endurance. So when you started back during the 20 years off that you had, did you walk? Did you run? Were you keeping in decent cardiovascular shape? And then when you got back to the pool, what has been the evolution of your workouts over, the 20 years of your training?
I'm always active. I like to exercise. I feel like my body needs it. It's a way to get rid of stress from work. So that was mostly just walking or even elliptical at the gym, sometimes some bicycling. I would never run.
Yeah, okay.
So running was never included. So I really still wasn't in great shape around 40s. I probably started out with about 3,000, 4,000 yards, just getting my strokes back, getting my strength back. I did have a personal trainer for a while just to regain some muscle strength. And then I'm sure a lot of people know my mom was my coach for till about 5 years ago. And we would just read a lot about what kind of sets people did and ways to regain strength. And I worked with my nutrition. My sleep has never been great because I'm on call quite a bit. So that was the tough part to recover. But some of our favorite sets then, my focus was more on backstroke. So we would do things like 400 IMs, where the first one is split after the 50 fly, and then in the middle of the back and the breast and the free. And then we would take away each one of those until you did a full 400 IM, or we would do 5 sets of 550s of backstroke, keeping each 50 the same with whatever you started out with. And then there's kind of a big change about 5 years ago, of course, at the pandemic time when I turned 55. I was really lucky. I got to be 55 for about 6 months before everything shut down. And then I didn't race, and we didn't have much access to a pool for a year or so. And my father was been very sick for a long time, and he passed away. And my mother's almost 90 now and doesn't coach me. So these last 2 years, I've had a good friend, Kristen Hill, who's the former coach at BSU, writing me workouts. And so it's changed my workouts. It's been more based on my legs, on my kick. And we do something fast every workout, whether it's a fast set or a pace work or a very short, fast 50. And so that's been fun. I think that's really added in the last couple of years to where I am now. I hadn't had that before.
Yes. Personally, as a coach myself for many years, I feel like most master swimmers just don't do enough speed work, that they kind of just get in there and grind. And, the lore of Ellen Reynolds is just, it's always been, oh, Ellen swims 6 days a week, 5,000. And when I heard that, I'm like, yeah, that's just not cutting it for me. That's, that's actually kind of antithetical. I mean, I know that you can do it, but to hear that you're really focusing on speed, focusing on pace, focusing on IMs, focusing on backstroke, it makes a difference. Because if maybe I'm just being a distance swimmer, I kind of just imagined you face down grinding out 5,000 with no pace or no particular goal in mind, which, that would never translate to the things that you're doing. So fantastically on all that stuff, what, as far as strength training, because you seem, very strong, are you doing any dry land or, weights, or what would you describe there?
Yeah, I'll describe that. I just want to go back to, this myth of, 5,000.
Yes.
For 6 days, because I've thought about that. And really, I swim pretty much every day. And I think in the past 20 years, up until these last 2 years where I have cut back to part-time, the reason I swim every day is because my work schedule is so unpredictable. And so the days I knew I could get a hard workout in, I would get a hard workout in. And sometimes even then I would be interrupted. But the days either I was on call or I was going to do a big surgery that day, I would just swim easy. I might still swim 4,000 or 5,000, but it wasn't very hard. And so it was so unpredictable. I just took the day I could, even if I didn't feel well that day, to swim as hard as I could to get the workouts in. Fortunately, the last year and a half, it's much more consistent. So I can plan, like I can work hard these 3 days, and then, every Thursday is my operating day. So I'm going to just do an easy swim in the morning to stretch my back and stretch my neck so I feel good standing all day. So I do really swim every day, but it's not, grinding out 5,000. It's whatever my body could do that day, and, whatever I needed for my surgery or my work life. There's only so much energy in the pie, and sometimes the swimming got it, and a lot of times work got it.
Thanks for that clarification.
Yeah. But with the dry land, interestingly enough, I don't lift heavy weights. I just don't have that kind of muscle strength. And I do a trainer about average once a week, sometimes twice a week, sometimes once every 2 weeks. But it takes me about 2 days to recover after I do sort of a hard 45-minute to hour, I would say, a lot of core work. For me, extra leg work, a little bit of like jumping, which I can barely get my toes off the ground because I'm not a sprinter. But it's hard for me to do more than that. I'd rather swim. And I feel like I do better swimming more than I do the dryland stuff. But it definitely helps me. It's hard. I'm just not a heavy weightlifter.
And when you say you do a trainer bout, what does that mean?
Oh, so there is a fitness place here where there's a couple good people that seem to understand swimming mechanics. And so I have a trainer there who works with me.
Okay. And nutrition-wise, what do you focus on there?
Well, I try to stay hydrated. I must admit, I really like French fries and ice cream. I do try to get 2 or 3 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. I've definitely tried to get enough protein. That has really helped this last year, working on the protein. But again, it's not, there's some days where you don't get lunch or you don't get dinner or you're working all day. So I just do the best I can. I'm really not the best. I'm sure that could improve. There's always so many things that could improve, and nutrition is definitely one of them. I do think for me, like a 2-hour workout, I drink a mixture of Gatorade and a whey protein powder. And that really helps. Like I can't just go through a 2-hour workout without having any calories.
Yeah. You're retiring this September, right?
I am.
Okay. So up to this point, you've had a limited schedule, like you just said, and you swim when you can. Is there certain days that you do focus on speed, like on Tuesdays or Fridays or something?
I would say probably once a week. Yeah, towards the end of the week on Fridays. It's more of a, quote, speed day.
Okay, cool. And then mental training. Do you do visualization? Do you do goal setting? I mean, how do you, when you set out to, or do you set out? Like, what are your goals when you go into a new age group? I know a lot of us master swimmers like, yay, we can't wait to age up. And then, we set goals. What are your goals for the 60 to 64? How do you set them and how do you put those mentally in place?
Yeah, I am a very goal-oriented person. I think that's just me. And yes, I'm very satisfied. I mean, I've had an amazing year, far better than I expected. My main goal this year was to go to the World Championships and be 5 for 5 golds and world records, which I did do. And I think there's no such thing as perfection, but in my mind, that was just so satisfying. I could have stopped there. I've tried to really work on being just very positive and in the moment. I do think a lot of my mental strength comes from my work. As being a pediatric surgeon, I think there's a lot of just determination and consistency and very detail-oriented from my work that I apply to my swimming. No parent wants me to come out from an operation and say, oh, I got tired, I can't do it, I'm done sort of thing. And so I just apply that to swimming, that I always try to work as hard as I possibly can. Sure, there's days I can't when I'm just really tired, and I've learned to give myself a break on those days because you can't do that at work. And as I look back on my career, naturally, of course, I probably only had a little bit of that, but I think after 25 years of constantly doing that every day at work, it really sticks in your brain. And that's what I bring to the pool. They've just been so complimentary, my surgery and my swimming. My swimming gives me the physical strength to stand and be strong while I'm working. And then my working is just giving me a lot of mental strength. So I'm very grateful to have both.
Yes, absolutely. Is there something in master swimming that you have not accomplished that you would like to accomplish?
No, we got to have our first relay world record this last weekend, and that was wonderful to be part of that group. No, if I had to stop swimming tomorrow other than not swimming, I think I would be good. And, the pandemic taught me that too, because we couldn't race for a while. And at first, when I back to the pool, I thought, well, should I swim if I can't race, if I can't see what I can do? And then after a few months, I was just grateful to actually swim and be in the water, that I realized even if I couldn't race, just swimming is just lovely.
Oh, of course, of course. So in looking at your records, you literally hold the world record in the 50 back, which obviously is a the shortest sprint that we can do in Masters. And I don't know if you've set it yet, but I know you've set the national record in the 1500, which is the longest race we can do in Masters swimming. Is there any event that you do not swim well because you get all the freestyle records, the backstroke records, the breaststroke records, the IM records? I know you swim the 100 fly, and I guess the roundabout is, do you not swim the 200 fly, or are you going to do that?
I don't think I'll do the 200 fly. I'm maybe short course, but fly has kind of been my last thing to really work on. Last year, I really worked on that breaststroke to improve that. I highly doubt I would ever set a record in the 50 breaststroke because I think that's where true technique comes in that I don't have. I pretend to be a breaststroker for the longer distance. I think the only reason for the 200 breaststroke is I can hold the same split every 50, but I can't go any faster. So yes, probably not ever that 200 fly.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I've never swum one in my life. So the first 100 of the 400 IM is scary enough for me. So in speaking of this new world record on a relay, I noticed you moved from, you used to be with, was it Snake River?
Snake River LMSC, but Sawtooth Masters here in Boise.
Okay. And what prompted the move to the Southern Pacific LMSC and Redbird?
Well, so for us here in Boise for Sawtooth Masters, it's been on and off over the years in terms of having a team or having a workout to go. And even being part of a team, I usually train by myself, usually with a training partner, John Rubaki. He's awesome. He just shows up whenever I want and will work as hard as he possibly can. So last year when I started racing again, Yelena, Kunivak, and Arlette God just reached out to me and said, hey, would you like to be part of our team? And that was just the really best thing, to be invited to be part of a team of several women, almost 60 or in their 60s. And then, of course, they invited my fiance, who's the only male non-swimmer, but he's doing a great job. We don't train together. They're all sprinters and do a lot of dryland training. So I don't think we could actually probably swim together in terms of workouts. But for a swim meet and the mental and social support we give each other, I'm very grateful to be a part of that.
Yes. I mean, it happens everywhere, all over the country. I mean, we're, on a team in Florida, and we have people from all over the nation that, I see them alone at a meet and they're swimming by themselves. And I'm like, hey, want to join our team? And they do, so I think it is nice. It's one of the beauties of master swimming that you can, swim with other people that you just kind of have something in common with, or click, or something that adds to your master's experience, because that's what we always say. Masters is about the community. And if you're swimming alone, then find a group to swim with. That's what I say. So if you are now retiring, I'm terrified, Ellen, of what the future swimming, Ellen, looks like. If you've been doing this level of swimming with a incredibly demanding job, what is the future of Ellen Reynolds and your training program and your goals look like after you retire? What is your retired life going to look like?
I thought you were going to say you're more terrified of what I'm going to do in retirement in general, because that's where I'm at.
Well, then go there, go wherever you want. But I know a lot of people when we retire or slow down, then you kind of focus on swimming, and you'll see that. You'll see some woman who's 63 who you've never seen, and she pops up in our age group, and then she's like doing incredible. And you're like, where have you been for the last 20 years? So, you've been in the sport, so share with us just wherever your terrified mind goes. I'm just terrified that, these records, you did break my 1500 meter short course record. So more power to you. I'm inspired by people who are just doing amazing things. And it's okay if, people break their records, but I'm teasing.
Yeah. Well, it's a good question. I don't know so much about the swimming. I do have a few more things I'd like to swim: short course meters, short course yards, because my birthday's in the summer, so I don't really get the yards in there till you age up. I was, just really fortunate that Worlds were in February, even though I was technically, quote, 59. But, for that, I was in the 60 to 64 age group. I'm just really excited about life, to live life outside of the hospital. I have a fiance. I want to go see my kids. Like I said, my mom's going to be 90 in a couple of weeks, so to spend time with her, to travel. So I'll keep swimming. I think it will come and go, the intense focus. I just don't think I want to do that all the time. You get tired of being 2 hours in the pool every day and resting and trying to do dry land. So I don't really know. I have worked so much that I don't think I've really been able to sit and think about what else will interest me after work. I get kind of in the routine now, in the sense I think it's almost easier when you have this very set schedule like I've had over the years. So I'm just going to have to take a deep breath and keep an open mind. And I will always swim. Whether I compete always at a crazy level just remains to be seen. Just, life can change, and we'll just wait and see.
Yes, absolutely. So Maria and I have had several requests from women that are, in the 50 plus masters category, because we've interviewed elite cyclists and elite runners and elite triathletes, and you would be the ideal person with your medical background. So we women that are going either into menopause, through menopause, we have the option as women to take hormone replacement therapy, bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. I started taking bioidentical hormone replacement therapy at 54, and I took it actually 53, because that's about when I went through menopause. And I took it. It was progesterone, estrogen, testosterone. I took it for 2 straight years, and I really felt like I slept better. I felt like I wasn't gaining. I didn't have the little menopausal pot belly. I was swimming really strong. I felt great. And then I got breast cancer 7 years ago. So I did it for 2 years. And then, of course, when I found out that I had breast cancer, I went off of it, and I haven't been taking it. But I know I talked to tons of women in sports that are like, do you think that this enhances us? And then I've heard, rumors of all kinds of different performers that are ahead of us, maybe 5 or 10 years ahead of us. I'm not going to name any names because it's totally legal. And, this is master swimming. It's not a huge deal. But as a doctor, do you feel like that this is an enhancement? And is it something that if we want to get better, that we could consider? Or what are your thoughts around this topic?
Well, I'm so glad you asked. I always thought that if I were a celebrity, and how a celebrity would pick a cause, mine would be menopause, because no one talks about it. I don't think. It still seems like a hush-hush, just even mentioning you have a period or lack of periods. So it is something that I think should be explored. I am not an expert on it. I don't want to take it as medical advice, especially since I take care of kids. But, from reading and looking at the studies that have been done, I don't think it's well studied medically in terms of good. There are older studies out there that was like, oh, it's bad, you shouldn't do it, blah, blah, blah. So I started exploring it when I was about 52. Very fortunate to have sort of a nurse practitioner in town in my area that has kept up with menopause. I do take hormone replacement therapy. I don't take it, I would say, for, elite swimming purposes. I take it because I had horrible migraines when I stopped having any, meaningful hormones in my body. I would get very anxious and just extremely irritable with mood swings. I felt like I had a brain fog and I couldn't think well at work, which really bothered me. And, I'm worried about my bone health. I'm very fortunate that I don't have a history of breast cancer or blood clots or other contraindications to using it in my family. So, yes, I think if it's reasonable for a person to do it in terms of their health background and in discussion with their own doctors, if they can find that. I know not everybody can, because there's still, I think, a feeling out there that you go to your gynecologist and they're just like, oh, well, here's some estrogen, progesterone, and they don't check your blood work and keep the levels steady at a certain, appropriate range. So it probably does keep our muscle tone better. I know it keeps our mental strength better. I don't think anybody's really studied, physically we are stronger and faster in terms of hormone replacement therapy. But I do think in terms of our longevity, I think there's some links to potentially less dementia as we age. That's the reason I think people should look into taking it.
Oh, I am so glad to hear you say that, because again, before we started recording, we were talking about all the doctors that are in our family, Maria and my, she's married to a doctor. And there's so many reasons that women should look into it that have nothing to do with performance. That, just like you said, bone health. I have a little Irish English background, and I'm already osteoporenic, if I'm saying that word right. And it's terrible. I mean, you think about that. And my mom died of Alzheimer's. And so I do wish that I could really replace the estrogen and progesterone and testosterone that I don't have. But being a breast cancer survivor, they won't let me do it. But I do feel like that for general health, we do need to have these conversations and talk about them. And I'm glad to hear from your perspective that, you've looked into it. And your training, has this helped your sleep and just your overall general well-being?
Yes, because that was part of it too, is this terrible fatigue I've had for a long time. And I mean, the other part is I actually do have sleep apnea, so I've been working with that too, believe it or not, because I'm not, a heavy person or someone you think classically would have it. But estrogen for sure helps just your general overall well-being, that you just enjoy life more, you're more joyful, you want to see what every day is going to bring. And then to work with the sleep part of it, I think is extremely important.
Yeah, I love that. So Ellen, one of the questions we love to ask our guest is, what has been your biggest obstacle in your life that you have overcome?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I've had a pretty fortunate life. There hasn't been much that hard work couldn't overcome and get me where I wanted to be.
Have you had any injuries or any illnesses or anything during, all this hard work that you put in?
I have. I've had to have actually both eyes for cataract surgery. Not that anybody want to hear that as a surgeon, but I do see very well. I have really bad asthma, exercise-induced asthma that I've gotten over. And then for me, it's been 2 years ago, I had major abdominal surgery that I had to recover from, but had very good kind of a cancer scare, but fortunately was not. So I think honestly, sometimes the biggest things I've had to overcome are just my own brain. I tend to be shy and quiet and not put myself out there. And I think obstacles in terms of being a female in a male world and growing confidence and self-esteem over the years, I think is probably my biggest obstacle, which isn't really fair because that's all self-inflicted, but very grateful for my life.
So Ellen, Maria and we're going to joyfully poke fun at you because you are such a champion that we always say when we've interviewed a lot of Olympians and a lot of super successful athletes and coaches, and they never realize what their obstacles are. They don't see, they say, oh no, I've just had a perfect life. And then that's why I drilled down oh, well, have you ever had any surgeries? Have you ever had any sicknesses? And there you are, you have abdominal surgery, you've had cataract surgery, but you just breeze through them and you don't look at them as an obstacle. And I love for our listeners to hear that, to just know that, yeah, this is how a champion thinks. They work hard and they don't see these things as huge obstacles. So I love that.
Me too.
Yeah. So Maria, if you want to ask about.
Yeah, just I read that your mom's still around and she's part of your retirement plan, apparently, taking care of her.
Yeah, I have a really great close relationship with my mom, and she'll be 89 soon. And we still mourn my father. I don't know if people remember him at the pool at all. It was really special. This meet in Mission Viejo was 5 years ago, was the same nationals in Mission Viejo, and that's the last swim meet that my dad made it to. He was on oxygen for a long, long time and, passed away from his long-term illness. But my mom, everyone aspires, I think, sometimes to be daughters to be like their mothers. She lives independently, where she and my dad lived, about 10 minutes from where I live. They lived here in Boise about 20 years, partly so I could help take care of my father with his medical needs. And she went by herself on a Vikings cruise twice this last year. Once was from Venice to Istanbul, and the other one was from Fort Lauderdale through the Panama Canal. Wow. So my mother is still going strong. And really the only quote care we give her is if she needs the toilet fixed or the light bulb changed. So, and a lot of company. But yeah, she's a pretty tough lady.
Wow. It sounds like you got some good genes there. So before we ask the last question, Ellen, is there anyone within the master's community that has particularly been an inspiration to you, or a mentor, or somebody out there in the master's community that this inspired you?
Well, I think anyone that we see over 90 that's doing the 100 fly or the 400 IM is truly amazing. So I would say all of the older swimmers. I very much appreciate those swimmers whose records I've been breaking, because that always just gives you the motivation. I'm so competitive that if you put something like that in front of me, I'll try to go get it. So I don't really want to name names, but I think it's the whole master's community that is just amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. The last question that we always ask before we play a fun sprinter round. So we're not going to let you go until we find out some little fun facts on you. But is there anything that we have not asked you that you would like to share with our listeners? It can be anything.
I don't think so. Yeah, I know I've said it several times, but I'm grateful for my family and my mom and my dad. I'm just a very fortunate person who's worked hard. I think maybe the only thing, now that I think about it, that I had made little notes of thoughts I wanted to share was just my overall motto. And if you ask both of my kids, what would mom say to do? It would be to just work as hard as possible as you can on whatever it is you want to do. It didn't matter for them what it is they were actually doing. It didn't matter the outcome of what finally happened. But if they could look at me and say, Mom, I worked as hard as I possibly could, then that's all I ever expected of them.
Love that. It's so great. All right. Are you ready to answer some fun? These are generally one-word answers, just kind of like a quick round.
It's like a sprint. I don't know. I might have to think.
Take your mark.
Favorite sandwich?
Tuna.
Oh, I love it. What do you own that you should throw out?
A lot of old bathing suits.
Scariest animal to you?
A spider.
Okay. What celebrity would you most like to meet?
Katie Ledecky.
What is the hardest swimming event in the pool?
400 IM.
The last favorite movie you watched?
Favorite movie I watched? I don't have time to watch a lot of movies.
There you go. That's
About Time. It's called About Time.
Oh, About Time. Okay, Maria, go ahead.
Favorite smell?
Lavender.
Do you make your bed every morning?
No, but my fiance does.
That sounds like a keeper. Kickboard or no kickboard?
No kickboard.
If you had to listen to one song for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oh, and I don't know the name because I'm not very good at that either, but it's the song that says it doesn't matter if we're right or we're wrong. I want to be with you tonight. It's a love.
Okay. Yeah.
I know it came to me and then it went. I'm sorry. Okay. Window or aisle?
Window.
Describe your life in 5 words.
Busy, exciting, adventurous, enjoyable, and fun.
Okay, last one. What word comes to mind when you dive in the water?
Just how lovely, cool, and delightful the water feels.
Yeah. Yes. Then you get the spiritual meaning there. Oh, Ellen, this has been so wonderful to spend this time with you and just keep pushing the limits and inspiring us. I mean, it really is just fun to watch you, and you're really setting the bar in doing things that people should know that can be done with all the things that you're doing. So congratulations, and thank you so much for being with us today.
Yes,
thank you so much for inviting me.
Stay tuned for the takeaways. Want to succeed like a champion? 5-time Olympic coach Bob Bowman, coach of Olympic legend Michael Phelps, says Kelly's book, Take Your Mark, Lead, is a powerful addition to your personal improvement library, and learners from all walks of life will gain key insights and enjoy this inspiring book. Take Your Mark, Lead debuted as an Amazon #1 bestseller in 5 categories and is available online. And now, the takeaways.
All right, Maria, we're back to takeaways. We love it. Ellen Reynolds, amazing. Again, all the things she's done are just so inspirational. What was your first takeaway?
Well, it's just classic consistency. She trains 6 days a week and has consistently she doesn't train hard every day, but she gets in the water every day. And I think, she said that she did that in part because it helped her neck and her back. But just, I think the habit, just stacking, building just every, 6 days in the water. I think that's a great lesson for all of us. Not hard every day, but just doing the thing that you do.
Yes, I love that. We hear that from a lot of our champions, consistency. Yeah. My first takeaway, and we're going to do 2 each, is that, it's really never too late. So for our listeners out there, it doesn't matter what age you are, Ellen did not start really swimming until she was in her 40s. She said she had a 20-year hiatus, and she kind of walked and did a little gym work, but not any swimming. And so to start in her 40s and really kind of get cranked up about 10 years later, she started setting a bunch of records in her 50s.
That is so inspirational.
Yeah, it's just never too late. So whatever age you are, and even if you're in your 60s or your 70s, there's always age groups above you that you
I love it.
You can improve it.
I love that.
Yes.
That's great. My second takeaway is that she said there's no obstacle that hard work won't overcome. I mean, that's one of my great truths too. And, when we asked her about obstacles, she's like, I can't think of any, which always makes us laugh because really successful people don't think about their obstacles. They don't dwell on the hard things. They just work and get through them. But once Kelly, you drilled down and, there's nothing. And she's, well, I did have that major abdominal surgery and, and my dad was sick for 5 years and, on oxygen. And I, just kind of the things that a lot of us would consider obstacles, she didn't even think about. And so I love that. I guess the lack of focus on the heart, on things that, most of us would consider obstacles, and just having that attitude that I can get through this with hard work.
Yes. Yeah. We love that. And again, champions seem to just say, yeah, okay, I'm just going to get through this. They don't tattoo it on themselves,
right.
So I do love that. So again, lots in there that you can get as takeaways. My second, and to wrap this up, Ellen is looking after her total well-being. And I love that we talked about the M word, menopause, and what happens to women. And I know men listen to this podcast, obviously, but you're either a woman that's going to go through menopause, is going through menopause, or men, you're going to be with a woman that's going through menopause, or somebody, a mom, a sister, a wife, that we have to start addressing these things that happen to us in menopause, and whether that's migraines or bone loss or dementia or cardiovascular health. And we do have the option as women to use bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. There are all kinds of that. And even as a breast cancer survivor, I have used it myself. And there are things that we should be talking with our GYNs about, and that when you take care of your overall health, then you can perform at your best. And so
because you can breathe, because you're not falling down.
Sleep. You don't have a migraine. You don't have brain fog.
Right.
So my takeaway is that I hope that people will hear that there's nothing wrong with looking into that option for making us have overall well-being, especially if we want to perform at the highest level.
And if you don't have a doctor who's willing to work with you on that, find one.
Find one.
That's really important.
Yeah. In fact, there is the menopauseSociety.org. You can find a GYN who's trained in menopause, because the stat is that when GYNs go through medical training, they get 5 minutes on menopause. This is a group that's more focused on it. So anyway, Maria, another great interview in the books. Thanks for being with me. Love you.
Thanks. It's great to be back in the saddle, Kelly. I loved it. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Champions Mojo podcast. Did you enjoy the show? We'd be grateful if you would leave us a 5-star review on iTunes to help others find us. And we'd also love to hear from you. We're on all social media platforms, or you can reach us at championsmojo.com.